Super Mario Bros. Wonder has finally released, and man is it a fantastic game. Graphically, it's easily the best in the 2D Mario series, and its level design with the unique Wonder mechanics is phenomenal as well. It's not a perfect game by any means. If I have to see this kid one more time, I'm gonna lose it. But it's definitely a fantastic entry into the Mario series. One of my absolute favorite new mechanics would have to be the badges. Before every level in the game, you can equip one of these and it'll give you some sort of special attribute that can help you beat the stage. These can range from simple things like starting out with a mushroom to more complicated ones like a unique grappling vine that lets you attach to walls. There are 24 different badges in the game, meaning there is a large variety of different options to choose from. However, with so many badges, some were bound to be worse than others, so today I thought it would be fun to rank every badge in Super Mario Bros. Wonder from the worst to the best. Now how exactly am I going to be ranking these? Well, that's pretty simple. I'm going to be ranking these based on how useful I think they are to both beating the game and getting 100%. I was originally going to rank them based on how much I like the idea, but I think I'm going to save that for when I rank all the badge challenge stages in the future. So with that said, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. At 200k, I'm going to rank every 2D Mario level, and let's jump right into the list. Starting off our list, we have, oh yeah, spoilers for Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Starting off our list, we have the only two badges in the game that I feel have their downsides outweigh their upsides. Seeing as badges are meant to help you, it's pretty understandable that these two would be at the bottom. 24, invisibility. This does exactly what you'd expect based on the name. It turns you completely invisible. Practicality-wise, all this does is make it so enemies won't wake up if you go in front of them. While it may seem sort of useful to not have enemies notice you, I'm gonna be honest, there's really no point in the game where I feel like this would help much. In some cases, it may even hurt you, seeing as an enemy's attention is sometimes required to get a purple 10 coin. On top of that, you also have the downside of not being able to see yourself. That makes controlling Mario a nightmare, especially in harder levels. You can sort of get an idea of where you are if you twirl since the particle is still visible, but this effect is still very annoying. The upside of enemies not being able to see you is not worth giving up the ability to see yourself. I mean, look how cute Mario is. Don't you want to look at him forever? The only people I could see benefiting from enemies not being able to see them are people who are really bad at the game, but in that case, they definitely don't want to be invisible since they would not be capable of controlling themselves. So yeah, this is definitely the worst badge in the game. With that said, I'm not upset that they added it. It makes for some good self-imposed challenges. That's the case for most of the 4 expert badges. They're usually used to make a level harder. Honestly, I think it'd be cool if the levels in the game tracked if you beat it with an expert badge, maybe by adding the badge to the stage in the overworld. That'd give this game a bit of extra replayability, I think. Of course, you can still do it on your own time, but getting some recognition for it would be cool. 23, Spring Feet. You know the spring mushroom power-up that everyone, loves? Well, this badge is basically that. You're forced to always jump every time you touch the ground, which I'm sure I don't have to explain to you can be quite annoying. If you hold the jump button though, you'll get a bigger jump, which actually goes up much further than a normal jump. This can actually be helpful in getting a few purple 10 coins that are a bit out of reach, which is what I think puts this above invisibility. I can understand someone finding the constant jumping more annoying, but I think it's fair to say that these two have to be at the bottom of the list. Now again, just like invisibility, I'm not upset by this addition. In fact, I actually really liked the Spring Feet challenge levels. I'd even say the Spring Feet segment of the game's final level is probably my favorite part, since dodging the fire bars is a good challenge. So again, I think this badge is cool game design wise, but since this video is about usefulness, it's hard to deny that this one hurts more than it helps. 22, Sound Off. Okay, it doesn't actually make the game silent. This is your reward for beating every single level in the game, and all it does is replace sound clips from the player with sound clips from what I think are the developers.
What a beautiful day!
Also, I think the description is funny. Hear strange voices? That's just me every day. So yeah, this does not have any sort of practical benefit, but it also does not have any sort of downside either. This is just meant to be a cute little reward for beating the game, and I think it succeeds. This just feels really random. I don't mind it being added or anything, it's just a bit odd. I'm not sure what I would have rather it been, but I mean, it's here I guess. I accidentally typed the wrong here into the script, but since this has to do with sound, it's a pun now. 21, Rhythm Jump. Finally, we have our first non-expert badge and our first boost badge of the video. That's pretty fitting, since this is the first badge that I feel has its upsides outweigh its downsides. This is a pretty unique badge idea. If you jump in time with the music of the stage, you'll be rewarded with coins. If you don't do it, you aren't punished or anything, so this is purely beneficial. The thing is though, the benefit is not that big. First off, you have to get a chain of at least 3 in sync jumps before you start getting coins, and this resets every time you miss this one. Keeping up with that while playing a level is pretty difficult. It may end up making you take an unnecessarily risky jump since you just so happen to be there when the beat hit. The real problem though is that you only get coins when you do it successfully, and coins are basically useless. Sadly, this game only adapted half of Mario Odyssey's shopping system. You can still buy things with purple coins, but regular coins are only used to get extra lives. In my opinion though, you're not really going to need them. Personally, I was never at risk of getting a game over. I got so many coins from just playing normally that I didn't need to worry about it. So this badge purely being about giving coins does make it pretty weak. I do have to say though that the level where you get this badge, 1, 2, 3 Jump Ninja Dancers, is one of my favorites in the game. A whole level based around the rhythm jumping is cool, and the aesthetic here is fantastic. Again though, this video is about practicality, so I think it has to rank quite low. 20, Coin Reward. This will give you extra coins for defeating enemies. This has the same problem as the last one. Coins are just not that helpful. The reason that this is better though is because it's way easier to just defeat enemies than jumping in sync with the music. This doesn't have any cool stage based on it though, so at least Rhythm Jump has a beat there. 19, Crouching High Jump. This is a move taken from Super Mario Bros. 2 USA, where if you hold the crouch button for long enough, you'll be given a larger jump. Now there are a decent amount of situations where this could be helpful, namely collecting purple 10 coins that are just barely out of reach. However, I just think it's a bit tough to use outside of that. You either have to stop or slow down severely in order to get a full crouching charge, but I really don't think the difference is large enough to make it worth it. From this point on in the list, the ranking got extremely difficult since they're pretty much all decently helpful, so keep in mind that I still think the crouching high jump is solid. Oh yeah, speaking of Mario Bros. 2, I finally beat it for the first time a few weeks ago, and wow does that game suck. 18, Grappling Vine. This one definitely hurts me because I really love the concept, but I just don't think it's quite as useful as everything else. By pressing the twirl button in midair, you'll shoot out a very long vine in front of you, and if it comes in contact with a wall, you'll cling onto it. This is a super fun one to use, and all of the badge challenge stages based around it are super fun, but outside of that, this is a really hard one to come up with a good use for. Levels weren't designed around this in mind, so I personally never found a good spot for this really to be used. I will say this does have one good element about it, the fact that you can basically climb any wall. If you wall jump off of it and then vine back to the same wall, you'll be able to gradually gain height. This is a little bit more useful, it can definitely help you reach a few collectibles. However, the grappling vine also comes with a pretty major downside. Since the vine is on the R button, the same as the twirl, you can no longer do that move in order to make jumps more accurately. That's an essential part of your moveset that you pretty much just lose with this, so as much as it hurts me to say it, I think the grappling vine is going to have to rank quite low. 17, Floating High Jump. This is pretty much just Luigi's jump from games like Super Mario Bros. 2, Luigi U, and 3D World. This will let you jump slightly higher and also descend slightly slower. While this seems like nothing but a positive at first, it is important to keep in mind that stages were once again not designed around it. There are plenty of stages in Wonder that are actually made much more difficult by having this badge equipped. I think for me it comes down to the floating part of it. It's just a bit too difficult to adjust to after playing with a normal jump for so long. Personally, in my playthrough, I found this to be one of the more annoying badges, but I could definitely understand why some people would like this. I think out of all of my rankings in this video, this one is probably going to be the most controversial. There is one more jump related badge after this that I personally find to be significantly better. That does also make this one in turn feel even worse to me though, so I personally think it belongs here on the list. 16, Coin Magnet. This will make it so if you get close to a coin, it'll be attracted to you and you automatically collect it. Now at first this placement may seem really confusing. Didn't I just talk about how useless coins are? While it is true that regular coins are a bit useless, purple coins are far from it, and the coin magnet works on them too. Sadly not on the purple 10 coin though. If you want the big bucks like me, you gotta work for it. You need a lot of purple coins to 100% the game, since you have to use them to buy all of the game's standees, and if bought outside the special world, getting a new one is left completely up to chance. Luckily there are some bonus stages you can unlock that give a ton of purple coins, and they are made much more effective while having this badge equipped. Outside of these levels though, I don't think it's worth having the coin magnet over other badges, but this is a pretty solid use for it, so I think it belongs here on the list. 15, Fast Dash. This makes you run slightly faster, and by that I mean slightly faster. You can barely see a difference in gameplay. There are a few levels that have a somewhat strict timer, but other than that, I don't find this one to be that helpful. The speed increase is so small that it's really not worth giving up the chance to use a different badge. On the other side of the spectrum though, 14, Jet Run. We have finally reached the last expert badge, and I think it's easily the most helpful. This gives you a significant speed boost, so if you're looking to beat levels quickly, this is your best bet. On top of that, this will even let you run on air for a second, giving you the chance to jump a bit later than normal. The levels I think this badge is the most helpful in are the Wiggler races. Poor guy just doesn't even stand a chance. So with all these pretty good boosts, what's the problem? Well, once you start running, you can't stop. Yeah, that can make this really difficult to use in any level that's even slightly complex. I will say I am really looking forward to seeing how how this badge is used in speedruns, because I imagine it will save a ton of time but will make the game quite a bit harder. For someone just trying to casually beat the game though, I think this badge is really only good for the race levels. That is still definitely a solid use, so I think it deserves to be up here. 13. Wall climb jump. This is a pretty interesting one. Instead of just doing a normal wall jump, you'll first jump up the wall you're on. This can be helpful for a large number of situations, like getting a collectible near a wall, which many of them are, or even saving yourself from falling into a pit. It's still a bit specific, but definitely a solid enough choice for a badge. 12. Safety bounce. If you fall into the void, lava, or some other dangerous liquid, Mario has the ability to jump off of it once and possibly get back to safety. I'd say this is helpful for any level that has pretty big jumps, as this badge provides for a great safety net. This jump also resets every time you go into solid land, so this is definitely a pretty helpful safety tool. The thing is though, the effectiveness of this greatly depends on how good you are at the game. If you're like me, who has never missed a Mario jump in their life, this is basically worthless. In that case, you'd be much better off going for a different badge. But if you're prone to constantly dropping your controller while playing, this might just be the best badge in the game for you. I decided putting it around the middle of the list made the most sense when considering both perspectives, but this one's ranking definitely changes a lot based on your skill. 11. Sensor. This will be able to detect when you're close to either a purple 10 coin or a Wonder Flower. Since those are both essential in beating the game and getting 100%, it's pretty clear why this would be helpful. Like the safety bounce though, it's another I feel greatly depends on both your skill level and experience in the game. If it's your 5th time 100%ing this thing, the sensor will probably not be of much help to you, but for a new player, it can come in handy in some spots. Personally though, I never really had much trouble finding anything, except for the freaking Wonder Flower in the spike level. Why would they put it in a pit that looks like it's going to kill me? But yeah, I didn't personally need the sensor at all in my playthrough, but I can certainly see others getting help by it. 10. Add exclamation mark blocks. This one actually surprised me quite a bit in how useful it ended up being. This will add exclamation mark blocks to levels, and depending on the level, that can be extremely helpful. Most of the time, it'll just give you some more leeway with jumps and give you a few extra coins, but certain levels get some more unique and helpful uses. Take the second level in the game for example. There's a hidden exit in this stage, though it's pretty well hidden. Figuring out what you have to do to get it is pretty challenging, but the exclamation mark blocks actually give an extremely helpful hint. While playing the level with this badge on, you'll be able to see them in the foreground, which tells you that you can actually go there. If you search around enough, you'll eventually find out how to get there, which will eventually lead you to the stage's secret exit. Another good example of how this badge can be used comes with the Drill Mushroom's first level, Jewel Block Cave. Normally in this level, you have to avoid a ton of enemies trying to crush you, but with this badge on, blocks will be placed in their way, which pretty much gives you a free pass. So I think it's fair to say that this is a pretty useful ability. It's one I'd recommend using going into pretty much any stage for the first time. I know I did a lot during my playthrough personally. 9. Auto Super Mushroom. This will give you a mushroom right when you start the stage. Obviously this is good to just have an extra hit, but more importantly it basically gives you guaranteed access to that level's power-up, since they usually have a power-up block right next to the start or a checkpoint. The thing about this one is that I almost never go into a level with it, but if I die after the checkpoint, it's almost always good to use. I guess you could say that this is another one that's sort of skill-based, since you could theoretically just never get hit, so this wouldn't do anything for you, but in my opinion, it's definitely still worth having around. But speaking of power-ups, that also brings us into the next 4 badges, since they're each based on the game's 4 main power-ups. Those being the Fire Flower, Elephant Fruit, Bubble Flower, and Drill Mushroom. These badges make it so any power-up you collect will automatically turn into the power-up on the badge. Since these power-ups are useful for not only beating stages, but getting certain collectibles as well, they're obviously very important. The thing is though, they're really less helpful than you may think. Every single collectible that requires a power-up in this game has that power-up in the stage. So yeah, to me, these badges are really only good for changing a Super Mushroom into the power-up, which is a great use, but I can't say they're the best badges in the game or anything. Oh, and I guess it's also good for these random power-up blocks in case you're too lazy to time your jump. It's also worth noting that taking these into a stage that requires a different power-up for a collectible would lock you out of it, so just keep that in mind. Now I've just talked about what these 4 share with each other, but what about their order in the ranking? Well, I guess that'd be determined by my power-up ranking, which I didn't plan on making a video on since there are so few in this game, so I guess that could be a little bonus for this video. 8. All Drill Power. My least favorite of the 4 is the Drill Mushroom. It lets you dig into the floor and ceiling to avoid enemies and even gain access to hidden areas. While it's definitely great for the levels designed around it, everywhere else it's a bit outmatched by the rest of the power-ups. It can't attack in front of it like the other 3, which I think is a pretty big weakness. Still a good power-up, just definitely my least favorite. The next 3 power-ups were all extremely close, but I think I'm going to give the next spot to 7, all firepower. Obviously the fire flower is great offensively, perfect for dealing with enemies both up close and far away. The other two are just a bit more useful when it comes to getting the game's collectibles though, which I think gives them a boost. 6, all bubble power. Of course the bubble flower lets you shoot out bubbles instead of fireballs. While they do move much slower, they also have a bit more uses as you can use them as platforms and they can even go through walls to activate certain things. One other fun thing you can do with the bubble flower, by the way, is shoot one, spin jump onto it, and hold right, which will let you basically make a staircase up through the level. This can be helpful to reach high up areas and honestly just feels good to do as well. 5, all elephant flower. I just think it's the most useful for getting the game's collectibles. Not only can it attack things with its trunk, but that trunk also is able to break and activate blocks. It's also able to hold water and spray it out, which is used for quite a few puzzles in the game. So yeah, there's my mini power-up ranking inside my badge ranking. 4, timed high jump. This will let you jump higher if you jump after another jump. This is sort of like the spring feet badge if it didn't force you to jump constantly. This extra height not only makes it easier to make larger jumps, but it's also of course nice to collect things as well. One other neat detail about it that it specifically mentions in its description is the fact that it can even work on sand, making many of the levels in the desert much easier. What I really think puts this so high though just comes down to how easy it is to use. When I first got this, I thought it would work like the triple jump in previous Mario games, but no, you could just jump in place and it works perfectly, no difficult timing required. I certainly used this in quite a few stages. While the boosted jump height isn't insane or anything, it's definitely noticeable enough to place it high on the list. 3, dolphin kick. This makes you swim much faster underwater by pressing the twirl button. That makes this badge basically essential for any water level in the game, and there are quite a few. Sure, this is completely useless outside of water levels, which is what stops this from being higher, but the fact that it's unquestionably the best badge in a solid chunk of the game's levels makes it pretty fair to place it at number 3. If nothing else, it also makes underwater levels actually a decent bit of fun. In previous 2D Mario games, underwater levels sucked, I mean there's no other way to put it, but the dolphin kick makes them so much more enjoyable to swim through. The badge challenges relating to the dolphin kick were also extremely fun. Overall, I think this is definitely one of the best badges. 2, parachute cap. For being the first badge you get in the game, it's an extremely good choice. This will replace the mid-air twirl with the ability to slowly glide down with your cap. I think the applications of this are pretty obvious, as it lets you make massive jumps that you wouldn't otherwise be able to. Its slower descent also makes landing so much easier, so it's without a doubt one of the best choices in the game. I mean, every level is going to have jumps in it, so this is a pretty safe choice going into anything. This is also greatly helped by the fact that Mario Wonder doesn't have any flight power-ups like previous games. Personally, I think applying that to badges is a pretty cool idea, so I'm overall a pretty big fan of this. It reminds me a lot of the Super Acorn power-up from New Super Mario Bros. U, which was a pretty solid flight choice. Personally though, I have always been a bigger fan of the flight power-up from New Super Mario Bros. Wii, the propeller suit. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if that got a badge as well? 1, boosting spin jump. This will significantly buff your twirl by making you gain height when you use it. While the vertical boost may seem small, it's definitely enough to help a ton. It can help you reach further distances both vertically and horizontally. It can also help you survive a fall you would have otherwise died in. It can help you just barely avoid an enemy if your jump just missed by a hair. You can even use it to get collectibles that are in pits, as you can fall down and then twirl back up. This one just feels so good to use. The boost is obvious and flows well with the rest of your moveset. Like I said, this is also heavily based on the propeller mushroom, one of my favorite power-ups in the series. While this clearly doesn't give as much of a boost, it's still incredibly helpful. Pretty much as soon as I unlocked this, I never used any other badge for the rest of my playthrough. Its badge challenges were also extremely fun as well, which isn't part of the ranking like I said, but I thought it was still worth mentioning. So for being an incredibly helpful and natural boost to your moveset, I think the boosting spin is easily my favorite badge in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. But anyways, that's it for this video. Are you trying to get a million coins and hate me for calling them useless? Let me know in the comments. I am really looking forward to making a ton of videos on this game in the near future. I already know I want to rank all of the badge challenges like I said, along with the Wonder Flower effects as well. I also plan on making a nitpicks video soon, and I want to make a big video ranking every level in the game. So if you want to watch all of those, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you have any other great Mario Wonder ideas, feel free to let me know in the comments. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.
You win this round, Nathaniel.